Todd, you talked about how last season's camp was about establishing the identity, and this year it's more about rediscovering from what you guys had last year. How have you seen that kind of progress through the last preseason game into now today's final practice?
Well, I think that's a process that's going to continue, not just for the Kings, but for every team that's beginning the season. You're never the finished product on day one. And I do think I've mentioned to a few guys that day one is often, it's either too high or too low or whatever it is. Day two is really where you start to see what your team is made of and how it rolls out. But we're at day one, and we're going to make it important. It obviously is. We'd like to see our identity come out. We'd like to see our structure come out. We'd like to see individuals find their game within our game. There's areas that we've concentrated a little bit more on throughout training camp than others, and we should see improvements in those areas, or at least progression towards it, pardon me. But it will take some time, and we're no different than any other team in the league.
Todd, you talk about identity. The last 3 games have been high-scoring games, not really your identity last season. Is there a lot to clean up defensively? Is that just an offshoot of preseason games?
There's some things to clean up defensively. Some of it's game management. Some of it's, situational, that we've got individual mistake here and there, not necessarily the team as a whole. Some of it's games 5, 6, and 7 of exhibition season. Whatever that means. I think you guys can figure that out. We have to remember who we are and what our identity is and play towards that. So at the end of the day, that's what will take us to where we want to go. And if we start to stray from it, we'll probably learn some valuable lessons along the way, and we'll have to reel some things in. But that's who we are, and that's how we'll have to play.
Last year, you took a while before you were able to define the identity of the team. What about now? What is it?
Well, we should be really hard to play against because we're a structured team. We have some predictability to each other, not necessarily to the opposition in what we do. Our checking skills are in our DNA, and we value that. And when I say we, it usually starts through the championship players that have been here before. And it trickles all the way down. You can be a really sound, responsible, trusting player on the ice and still produce offense. Phil Deneau was that last year. Adrian Kempe, for the most part, is that. So start there, and the offense will come later on. Do we want to score more goals? Of course we do, and we have to. But if we're chasing goals all over the place and giving up too many, we're probably going to be in trouble.
Todd, on Brent, we've talked about, obviously, what he's shown in camp on the ice, the skills that he has, and the growth that's obviously there with Swagger. How much does his confidence, there's even seems to be a little bit of swagger, a little attitude with Swagger. How much has that even carried him through this camp and to this point where maybe he can be playing tomorrow night?
I think that has helped him immensely. Brent knows who Brent is. He knows what's in his toolbox and his toolkit. He hasn't played with fear, and what I mean by fear is not the physical part, but fear of erring on the ice. He makes plays, he attempts plays. He's been very coachable throughout training camp. Potentially away from the Kings family, I could see where that confidence or that swagger may be misread in other environments where it could hurt him, but so far not in ours, not one bit.
Todd, last few preseason games, it seemed like a lot of goals in the second period. I think I counted 10 goals against. Anything that, tendencies that were happening or not happening?
Well, we get off. We've had good starts in the exhibition season. We get to the break, we come out, and we seem to take penalties that aren't really important in anything that's going on, away from the puck in the O-zone, the neutral zone. I'd like to think that can be cleaned up. Those are individuals more than team mistakes. I'd like to think that gets cleaned up, and early in the year that can swing the momentum a big way. But other than that, I don't have anything else to put my finger on.
You just mentioned Deneau and Kempe, and they both had career seasons last year. What have you seen or what do you know about them that leads you to believe that could be the norm as opposed to being exceptions?
Well, I have a longer track record with Adrian, and to me, where Adrian, the day I walked in the door and Adrian was there till now, he's gone from boy to man, in my opinion, and his responsibility for his own game has gone up immensely. And I see that in him, so I have confidence that he can carry on. Is he a 35-goal scorer? I sure hope so. But I know he's a 20-minute player for sure, most nights. And that's just as important as being a 35-goal scorer. With Phil, Phil's ability to play in structure and read plays and be responsible for the other 20 minutes a night has always been there. His breakout was the offensive part. And I think if he continues to do the things he did on the defensive side of the puck, he's going to get those opportunities offensively as well. So they haven't shown signs that they can't repeat.
What are you looking to bring out of Quentin Byfield's game? How would you assess where he's at and what you want to see from him, I guess, in the blueprint this year?
Well, a year ago, we were putting him in a cast and we were putting him on the shelf for 4 months, 4.5 months. We're not doing that now, so he's way further ahead. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's skating better, he's over top of pucks a lot more. The evaluation tool, I think, on the exterior is all these goals and assists and can he be that or whatever. He, in my mind, is already a better player now than he was last year at this point. Now we've got to let him play and find his way, and the rest should happen as the night goes on, or as the year goes on, pardon me, not the night, but as the year goes on.
Todd, with Fiala, he might be the only new player in your lineup tomorrow night. Now that you've seen him in the preseason games, practices for a couple of weeks, is there anything about his game that maybe you didn't know that you're really appreciating?
There were assumptions that we made based on his point totals and video and that type of stuff. You know, the hockey sense, the sense of timing, space, finish. Those assumptions to this point were good assumptions on our behalf because we've seen that. So it's the overall package, and it's just throughout exhibition season confirming what we believed we were getting and what we had viewed in the past, but now we see it full time. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that would be my answer for that.
Victor Arvidsson, did he come back sooner than you as anticipated, and how did he look off the other night in terms of being able to jump in the fray?
Not necessarily sooner. Victor's been on from the day he was ruled out last year in whatever it was, April, May, till now, he's followed pretty much the calendar of events that we thought would happen. And he's worked really hard to get himself back into the lineup. His eagerness and excitement about being back in is really healthy. I thought he had a real good game. One game. He's going to have to do it over and over again, but he completes the identity of that line. They spend a lot of time talking and analyzing how they play. That's, I think, makes them effective. And he's shown no signs of fatigue or anything else negatively.
Roger said this is the healthiest the roster's been in a year. Not the jinxing, but is it harder or easier?
Gee, thanks.
Blame Rob. Is it harder or easier to make decisions now based on everyone being available?
It's a mix. Some players made it easy. Some are making it harder. Some are making it clear both ways, for and against their play. I would be lying if I said I wasn't concerned about bringing all the banged up guys back at once. Harvey's played 1 game, Durzee's played 2. You know, these guys are coming back in without a lot of training camp time. Other teams are in that situation too, so we just got to figure it out as we go.
When you were introduced as head coach, you introduced the marathon metaphor. Now it's the start of year 4. How far that metaphorical marathon compared to where you'd like to?
Well, we've settled into the race now. We've climbed some hills, we got in some valleys. I think in marathons there's runners that break away, and sometimes the pack catches them again. I would say we're in that pack, and you know, we're no longer in miles 1 through 5. We're way further into it. But if crossing the finish line and putting a medal around your neck is the Stanley Cup championship, we still have a lot of running to do.